with this panel in partnership with Culture Barbare. So today we're here to discuss about music venues and clubs. We know that with the pandemic, some music venues were able to maintain some kind of activities under very strict protocols. But for most of the clubs, nightclubs are shut down for more than 8 months now. So how are they dealing with the situation, and how can they, is that an opportunity in some way for them to be recognized as part of the cultural sector? Because we know that it's one of the struggle of the club sector at the moment. So to discuss this today, we are with European colleagues from different parts of Europe. So we will first introduce ourselves. My name is Audrey Guerre, and I coordinate Live DMA, which is a European association representing live music venues, clubs, and festivals. And we're here with some of our members. So Adriana from ASAC from Catalonia in Spain.
Hi. Hi to everybody.
Hi. Easy from Switzerland. She's managing a club. She will tell us a little bit more about it. She's also Live EMA's co-president as part of PETSI, the Association for Music Venues in Sweden, and the club organization in Zurich, right? And we're here also with Mark Woolrab from Germany and from Berlin and Potsdam at the moment. And Mark is one of the co-founder of the Club Commission in Berlin. So he will also tell from his experience, and he's also a board member of LiveCom, so the German Association of Music Venues in Germany. First, maybe a short round table to know a little bit about your organizations. What's the role of these live music associations in the political landscape? And could you please let us know if these organizations gather venues and clubs? And if you make a difference between what you call a music venue or a music club, so just that we start with the same kind of definitions for this panel. Maybe Adriana, you want to start?
Okay. Here in Catalonia, in ASAC, we have nowadays 85 music venues, which I think mostly works also as a club or as a night bar. Because of course, just the music activities or the music concerts are not enough to run these kind of places. So do you have the concert time, and then most of them organized also club sessions. And we defend in our organization, we try to defend most the part of the music concerts, but also here in Spain, there are different organizations just for club members, which, for example, our president, Luis Torrents, that manage one of the most important clubs here in Catalonia, which calls Razmataz. Also is part of the board of one of these kind of organizations. So we are in touch with each other. We have kind of different battles because we talk more with cultural departments, for example, to try to defend more the cultural situation of our venues. And they discuss another kind of, or they fight for another battles more focused on the clubbing, on the dancing, and on the night activities. But we always are in dialogue, and we talk with each other so much. And during this pandemic, we have different communications and different press notes in common, because of course we have to fight for our situation, and we cannot understand some music venues without the club activity, and I think that it's important to get in there also.
Yes. So in a way, the situation is kind of fostering, developing the relations you have with the club organizations. And you said that you are more in discussion with the Ministry of Culture, and to which ministry the club's organization are related to?
They are more in a economical government or a ministry, more in a enterprise ministry, or even tourism ministry. But nowadays, our situation here in Spain, of course, it's really difficult, as in another European countries or in all the world. So I think now is a moment to talk with all the kind of ministries that you can, because we need help, and we need money and income from every ministry, and because we are cultural places, but also we are running business. So, and we are improving the tourism. If you want to be a country with a cultural interesting offered for the tourism. So I think that it's strategical necessary to get on different ministries or different kind of politicians right now for helping.
Okay. Thank you. Izzy, can you tell us a bit about the situation in Switzerland, where I feel like it's also different from a region to another?
Maybe let's talk about PETSI, the Swiss Association of Not-for-Profit Live Music Clubs and Festivals, where I am part of the board now. I was coordinating this association for 10 years in my former job. So PETSI is the national umbrella organization of the, let's say, alternative live music venues. In our membership criteria, it is a must-have criteria to have minimum 50% of live music in the program, which can sound a bit old school, also for me as a club culture professional, let's say. But the decision was made strategically because as you know, with only a concert program, most small and medium-sized venues wouldn't survive. So PETSI decided to focus on kind of the weakest link. But of course, of those close to 300 members, we have clubs and festivals that do minimum 50% live music. Many of them have also a specialty for club culture or for clubbing events. Most of them do it to like cross-subsidize the live music part, the smaller concerts.
Okay.
About the contact to the officials, to the authorities. So PETSI in the last 10 years got quite professionalized, and it has also a great network of other cultural associations, as the Musicians Association, but also with the big venues and festival producers association, and also has a network with the regional club and bar and venue associations. And due to this network and sorry.
Hello, Kat.
Mainly a big step we made with providing hard facts to the authorities and politicians, like, let's say, data. And there we made a big step, and now in the Corona crisis, we were kind of ready with our network, with our data, to really be an important spokesman, woman association for the ministries and also for the politicians. So we were invited by the Ministry of Culture and by the Ministry for Economics.
Good. When you say that it's one of criteria of PETSI to have 50% live music, do you include like DJ sets in what you say live music?
Yeah, so we include like live music, the artistic program that is proposed on the stage live. So DJ sets are not regarded as live sets, but of course electronic music can be also played as a live set, as a concert.
Okay.
A defined concert. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mark, can you explain us a bit about the situation in Berlin? What's the role of Club Commission there? And what kind of venues or clubs do you represent with Club Commission?
Yes, so in Berlin, we exist since 20 years now. Similar to Switzerland, we have the rule that you need a kind of creative approach where you take care for a very qualified booking. So we take care for young musicians, young DJs. The majority, every one of our members is putting a lot of effort into the artist and booking. So the music is into the center, the art, which is around club culture, which makes us different, for example, from, as we call them, normal discotheques, or maybe a bar where just some music is played in the background, maybe even not in live or from artists, but from a machine. So of course, these places also have similar problems with noise or complaining from neighbors. They have to exist. They're selling alcohol as well, like clubs. They have maybe problems with drug abuse, or there are places just to lay off, to meet friends, to have a good time. But I think what is for us important is this term club culture and how it is related to the music and to the artists. And here we have also we could do some really important steps in the last years in Germany, but it's still not into law. So that's what we are trying to reach now in Germany. We are not recognized by law as culture places, like, for example, theaters or art cinema places, and of course not like classical music places or philharmonic orchestras or something like that. That makes us difficult for taxes, that makes us difficult for urban planning issues. We are not allowed to open or to stay open or to come back to some kind of urban living quarters where maybe the ideal picture of a dense, lively, mixed city is technically not possible in Germany. Corona leads us to the point that we are really afraid of losing a lot of places now, and that they are not able to come back to the places where they are in the moment, because the law is so complicated that while they are seen as leisure places or not culture places, we maybe will lose next year some of them, or many, we don't know yet. From the German government, we are facing technically, by money-wise, quite a good support, I would say, but you will find also a lot of club people or club owners, not people, club owners in Germany will tell you, yes, theoretically, I could apply for money support from the government. And we have two levels, from the national government, the federal government of Germany, and often, but not everywhere, from your state government. And we have 16 states, very strong and independent states in Germany. So some of these states have own support programs. The national government has a program, but the procedure is so complicated, and you have to bring so many paperwork, and there are so many rules why you maybe are not into that program. So this is one of our very main work, what we do now with Club Commission and also LiveCom on the national level, to support our members how to find through the jungle of applications. And behind that is this political process to become recognized as cultural places into law.
Yeah, if we come back to that, I feel like in early 2020, the Bundestag, the parliament, was on track to give the same status to nightclubs as opera houses. At least we heard a lot about it in the press. So what happened? I mean, why is it important to recognize the club culture? You said that it's not in law at the moment. So was it paused during the COVID crisis, or are you still working on it? And how do you work on that? What are your arguments for policymakers to recognize club culture?
So the main argument is really that we are working with new musicians, new DJs, young people, and that we have the artist in the center, and that we are part of a whole society, how culture should be seen in development of our society. So we represent a very large stake of music culture, but it's not seen by really old school laws. It is seen some kind of leisure time, which is set in our country, similar to brothels and game halls. So that's the planning level where we are at the moment. But culture-wise, we're doing something very different. And as we can prove that so many official finance theaters and operas today have also electronic musicians into their art program, which all originally came from club culture, it's even not anymore the discussion that we are not able to prove how dense and how strong connected these different cultures are by art and booking, but by planning and also paying taxes, it's still quite different. And in Germany, we are facing a situation, and Audrey knows that chart from our data specialist from LiveD, Arne D. In Germany, we're facing, similar to Spain, for example, a situation where we have only very few political subsidies and support for our kind of culture. So most places have to act as free business institutions, but doing art on the market, because we don't have so many programs on subsidies if we compare it, for example, to the possibilities in Netherlands or Belgium or France.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I understand that your points in and the arguments for policymakers to recognize the club culture is mainly based on the fact that it deals with youth, with young people, and that artists are at the center, and that this aesthetics now, like electronic music, goes even beyond the club culture, but still it was born within these clubs, and this is why the clubs need the support. Adriana,
one sentence more. They even don't deny that. They see that. The most problem, the biggest problems, they are afraid of noise. They are afraid that our kind of institution bring the noise into the living quarters. That's the reason they don't recognize us by planning law as cultural institutions. And we are facing really very difficult discussions how we can deal with noise of people and technical noise by sound systems, and how we can do that in living quarters or near to living quarters.
Izzy or Adriana, do you see the same arguments to defend club culture, and do you see the same kind of barriers from the policymakers not to recognize the club culture as culture?
Izzy, go first.
Yeah. So yeah, I see what Mark said, and it's kind of the same in Switzerland. But I also have to say that I see that that club cultures, the artistic level of DJing, electronic live sets, even in our scene, you know, in the scene of so-called pop rock music ecosystem, is not well defined and not recognized.
Yeah. In I don't know, in our well, our situation is more or less the same here. It's for the politicians, there are like two different kind of music, you know. It's like for music concerts, it's one kind of culture, and of course the electronic music or the clubbing is another thing. I cannot say even culture, because for them are in another thing. I think, for example, for us, electronic music have to be considered as culture, as a a normal concert or a guitar concert, for example. I don't know. I consider, for example, a very human and cultural a thing, just the fact that you can go to a club to dance, to talk with each other, to socialize, to fall in love with somebody. I don't know, it's part of our culture, and I think that it's for a human behavior, it's really a cultural thing, just for that kind of simply argument. But of course, for our politicians, it's not in, they are not in the same page as us. And for example, for us, when we ask for subsidies, they don't recognize electronic music as a music concert, for example. And we have some music venues that they organized music concerts during a club session, you know, maybe at 2 a.m. in the morning. And then they came back for the DJing. And this is like a kind of battle that we have, because we have to consider, for example, for us, it's the same as a live set that a concert, you know, but it seems that it's not the same for them if you cannot plug a guitar, or they are not a drummer or a singer, there is not a concert. Why? Mm-hmm. You know, I think that kind of debate, it's on the table. And I repeat, I think that it's important to recognize the fact of clubbing and dancing, and to get relationships between humans for a cultural issue. I don't know. I think that it's basic.
So you mean that the system of subsidy is based, it makes difference between music genre. So it's a question of music genre most than a question of structure of an organization.
It's not well defined. You know, it's that there is some confusion about what is a music concert and what is defined a music concert. It's just from guitar, singer, and drummer, or it's just, it could be also a guy with some electronic machines making music. I don't know. This is kind of debate, and I think that it's not so clear. You know, that kind of difference.
Okay.
And then when we go to DJ sets, it gets even more complicated. You know, there is no qualitative arguments at all when a DJ is more like a jukebox, or when he's really creating an artificial work which takes on during the whole night, and which includes high technical but also artistic skills.
Of course.
Yes, but I guess in this the venues or the clubs bookers or owners should have the responsibility of their own artistic program, and I personally don't feel like it's the role of the policymakers to have an opinion on the artistic program of a venue and to say if it's culture or not. So yeah, the question is how to make the venue, the space, the structure recognized as a cultural place. And I guess it also has to, it's also kind of relate to the classification of the building and of the place in the planning. Like Mark said, that the clubs are considered as leisure and not cultural place. Maybe Adriana, if we can come back in early 2019, where when the Barcelona City Council created a classification to protect very small venues. I think the goal was to allow them to have a more flexible capacity than bars, and also to program other music genres than just acoustic measures. So can you tell us how did you work on that?
Yeah, it was a measure. It was not considered for music venues. It was a kind of license, an extra license for the Barcelona City Council, and it was thinked for cultural associations, art galleries, or normal bars that they they had been organizing concerts for so many time, but it was not really allowed, or they are not 100% legal to organize that kind of concerts. So they think about that kind of semi-license, or just another extra category for that kind of venues. And it basically it works on that they have to be the 150 persons capacity. They have to organize minimum 40 concerts per year. They don't have to be just acoustic concert, so they can plug some kind of guitar or electronic machines or wherever. And they have to be until 11 p.m. That were the 4 or 5 basic I don't know how to say, like
criterias.
Yeah. And from MASAC we work hand to hand with the Barcelona City Council to get this, because it was a really important measure for small venues that, for example, they just have capacity for, imagine, 40 or 50 people, which are really, really small venues, and they can increase that capacity during this the concert. So I think that it's a measure to protect and to increase the cultural activity in our city, also to protect this kind of a small and really underground scene, which form just the grassroots scene, which is very important for the beginning of our musics, the music that go out from music schools, that they don't have really places to play that kind of music. And I think that it's really important to recognize that kind of places and the activity that they offer to our city and our citizens, and of course our music scene. And in that extra, or that like kind of license, it's not a really license, it's just like a name or a kind of a stamp, that you can categorize that kind of venues for doing that activity. And I don't know, I think that it's basic for our music scene, because these stages are the beginning from so many musicians. So it's important to protect and to increase that kind of cultural activity.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of support, which is needed, you just mentioned the need to have, if not a license, at least some kind of recognition in terms of classification. This is also what we were mentioning earlier with Mark on the fact that nightclubs should get the same status as other places like opera houses. What other kind of support would this club need? I mean, in a normal period first. We know that in Catalonia or in Berlin, most of these clubs are private commercial places, while in Switzerland, with Pezzi, for instance, the venues, at least the ones that you represent, must be non-profit organizations. So would you feel like private commercial venues can receive public fundings in general? And how does the crisis come and maybe change your point of view on this?
Yes, in our situation in ASAC, I think that maybe the 90% of our venues are private and commercial. But I have to say that here in Spain and also in Catalonia, just our subsidies, our music venues just receive between 2 and 3% of subsidies on our total income. So, of course, I think that it's important that they receive subsidies. Of course, they receive subsidies for our cultural activity, just almost just for programming music concerts. Not we don't have subsidies for so much another kind of activities of our clubs. But I have to remark that our subsidies are just between 2 and 3% of our income. So I think that we are on the bottom of the list in Europe, even the European countries, and I think that it's important to from our governments to improve and increase our subsidies, because we are a very important cultural statement, you know, because we are just providing music concerts for our audiences. So I think that it's important that the governments understand that we are offering like kind of public services and a culture services. So I think that it's important to get some public fundings from our governments to increase and to improve our works, of course.
Izzy, what's your point of view on this? Why Betsy decided to focus on non-profit organizations, for instance?
So it's not non-profit, but not for profit organizations, which where it's also possible that it's a legal form of not being an association that's included in PETSI. And as I told in the beginning, it's a strategical decision of PETSI to focus on live music venues that are not for profit. But in Switzerland, there exist other associations that focus more on the bar, club, and venues, you know, that are kind of more open also to a more economic focus of a venue. For example, the Bar and Club Commission in Zurich, which doesn't have these closed admission criteria. And in PETSI there are also platforms, clubs and festivals that have a huge focus on electronic music, but they have to prove that 50% is live music. And maybe maybe some visions that I see how club culture can get better recognized is, exactly to include clubs and venues that have a artistically and social quality program with electronic music in the representing associations. Then also get funding and subsidies for festivals and clubs that do artistic programmation with electronic music. We did this with our festival, the Rhizome Festival. And then we are also planning to install a DJ department in the Swiss Musicians Association, so that we can work on qualitative criteria for our so-called artistic DJ. And then another point which is interesting in Switzerland, or mainly in Zurich, which can also help club culture to get a better recognition, is that every little state of Switzerland, the so-called cantons, is asked every 3 years by the UNESCO to hand in a list of so-called living traditions, and the canton of Zurich added to this UNESCO list techno festivals and the Goa culture. So it's a bit getting recognized even in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage.
All right. Mark, I think that somehow before the Corona crisis, some clubs in Berlin were not looking for like public subsidies because they also want to keep their independence from public funding, and they didn't want to get somehow institutionalized with any public support. So what other kind of support could be implemented for clubs or private commercial venues, if not subsidies? And how does the COVID-19 crisis is maybe changing that perspective?
I would suppose that also after Corona, the majority of the clubs, and hopefully it's a lot of them who will survive, who have been before independent, would also like to stay independent as far they have enough visitors in future as well. So that's maybe another point, because especially cities like Munich or Berlin, of course, there were a lot of tourists. So we maybe had a 50% touristic stake in the income of all these institutions. We don't know how quick they are coming back. Of course, in smaller cities, which have maybe more local people coming from the suburban boroughs, from the villages surrounding that city, they maybe can recover more quickly. Who knows now? Basically, I would say, because I know the people running these places, they are used to be independent, and that there's not a governmental institution who's telling them maybe indirectly, if you want to have an ongoing support, don't do this or don't do that. A lot of people here who are independent are afraid about that. Of course, now everyone needs support. What we do in Germany, we have on national level, on the federal level, so for Germany, and also in some of our states, institutions where you can apply for funding programs. And what we do, for example, as lobby organizations, in that case, for example, a club commission or our partner organizations in Bavaria or in North Rhine-Westphalia and Hamburg, and also, of course, LiveCom on the national level, we are supporting our political supporters in different parties, opposition and coalition into the government, that they are in front to set up these funding resources. Mostly these are institutions which belong to the government. Maybe sometimes it's a mixed institution, which is financed, for example, by our license rights owner organization, DMA, which where you have to pay for using music, which is a quite powerful and rich organization. It's existing since decades in Germany. So on the national level, for example, we have Initiative Musik, which is a national funding organization where we have different funding schemes, which can support digitalization in clubs, or maybe in future sound and noise issues, which supports maybe touring. So it's not an ongoing support of subsidies, but you have to apply and apply again, which is difficult because you always have to do the paperwork and you have a lot of Excel sheets and to reporting, but on the other hand, you stay independent. So it has both sides, good and bad. And I personally would say we will follow that way, but always keeping in mind for the cities like Berlin, how many people come back from tourism, and how many people can survive that situation after Corona.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so at the moment, if I'm trying to sum up a little bit of the arguments that were brought into this discussion at the moment, is that the recognition of the club culture goes through arguments mainly on the artistic value of club culture, and also the social gathering aspects of the club culture. And also one relevant advice, I guess, was that there's also a need of dialogue and solidarity among the professional structuration of the sector, and renowned clubs need and must be part of the representative organizations, also to show that they are part of all this sector and this professional organizations. Now, if we try to look at a bit in the future, I feel like, let me know if I'm wrong, but clubs are all shut down at the moment in Berlin, Switzerland, and Catalonia. We're all under the same kind of restriction. How do you foresee the upcoming future of the clubs? How do you imagine them reopening their doors under restrictions, or like which kind of restrictions? What's your feeling now about the future? Are we talking about weeks, months? Who wants to start? Yeah, Mark?
I just became moderator a few weeks ago in a German group, which originally was the name Open Clubs Now, and they changed the name just recently in Help to Save Club Culture in Future, something like that. So there is quite a very strong bunch of people coming from clubbing who really desperately missing going out, missing people, missing music, celebrating. And they are putting quite a lot of tension that the government maybe is lying, that the rules are too strict, that clubs should be reopened again, that if it's done illegal, and we have illegal raves, just last weekend, one was trapped with more than 130 people. So there are very tough discussions between people who are supporting more or less the situation of government rules and others who say it's too strict or it's not even, it's wrong in the case of it's not the truth. Most people who are running clubs are quite cautious, because I always posting in that Facebook group, hey folks, it's not you who are signing the contracts who is in charge of the responsibility if something happens. And so it's not that fair that you're treating people that wrong and that in that bad way when they are not willing to reopen the clubs so quickly, even they are not allowed. Personally, I believe that vaccine, is that a correct English word? Yeah. So I believe that medical technology will put us in a situation in the next 6 months, step by step, who believes into that, to become a more healthier situation. Of course, it is correct that these medical inventions has been done very, very quickly, normally to prove if they are healthy enough or not. But I think it's a very big and difficult game to believe now into that technical and medicine inventions or not. But if it's going on the market now, and it will support to let people and also governments to feel more safe. So I suppose we are maybe close till March. April, the sun comes again in Germany. We are lucky here in the moment today, but it's nearly too cold for an open air. So I'm starting to freeze now. The sun is gone. And I believe before March or April, nothing really will happen. Then the people you will not be able to hold inside. People will rave again outside. And I think the government this time has to go that way. And then maybe we are able to reopen in September with everything.
All right.
That's my personal view.
I don't know, here in Catalonia from Monday, it's allowed to organize music concerts, nor clubbing, just talking about concerts, but with some kind of restrictions. So they have to have the 50% of capacity, which is not real because it's 20 or 30 at least % of capacity, because you have to be on chairs and they have to be 1 meter or 2 meters between chairs, between people. You have to be sit down, not on standing, yeah. And also you have to wear mask, face mask all the time. And it's forbidden to get bar service, so we cannot serve drinks by the moment. This kind of situation will be at least for 15 days. And if the sanitary data gets a little bit better, it will open the bars, for example. Imagine that kind of situation for our venues. I think that we have confirmed less than 30 venues that will open with that kind of conditions and restrictions, because of course without no bar and just opening for the concert until 10 p.m. It's I don't know, it's just for militants, you know, you do it because you believe in that, and you want to work and you want to offer kind of culture in your venue. But of course, the numbers are not working for that kind of situation. And I think, thinking about clubbing, I think here in Spain or in Catalonia, and I think it's in all Europe, the situation and the normal situation will be for months, I think. I think that we have to think about two different ways maybe to improve our situation. One is of course the vaccine, but we don't know which will be the first, the percentage of fiability and the percentage of the citizens that can get the vaccine until March or spring from the 2021. And I think that other way that I think that have to be on the table is the fast tests. I think that's what one kind of possible or a kind of solution for music concerts, for festivals, for clubbing, you know, to have one kind of fast test, which have to be cheap, of course, and have to be work good. And I think that that kind of I don't know, it could be a kind of solution to have fast tests after getting a concert or after getting a club, and that you have to live that kind of experience in a normal way, because it's for me it's different. It's my opinion. It's different to imagine. It's difficult to imagine a club, I don't know, maybe without a bar or without dancing or with chairs. I don't know. It's not the way that it have to work. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. So I think that in one hand we have the vaccine, and on the other hand, I think that fast test will be maybe an open door to festivals and to clubbing and also to music concerts.
Easy?
Yeah, so in Switzerland, actually, we haven't been in a club lockdown since 8 months. We were, let's say, lucky. We have been on lockdown, on complete lockdown in spring, and then we were able to reopen also the clubs. We had capacity restrictions. It was up to 100, then up to 300, and then it went back down. Now we are again in a club lockdown, but as also in Spain, concerts or cultural happenings can take place, but only with 50 people and seated, and also drinking is only allowed seated. What we do now in the club lockdown is focusing a lot on creation, so that venues open their spaces and infrastructure for people who want to create music. Then there's a lot of streaming happening, and I do also networking events and a lot of discourse and consulting in this time. I think it was really important that we had such a great summer with clubbing in, let's say, the party and club town Zurich. I mainly work with, let's say, the next generation, the young clubbers, and they really needed this to get through the heavy time now. in terms of my vision about when it's gonna be, when we can gather again to dance and get physical all night long. I don't know when, but I'm sure it's gonna happen due to vaccine or whatever. I'm sure that the clubs will be taken into responsibility for a long time regarding like things like contact tracing and hygiene concepts, or there will be a lot of responsibility to the club producers.
Okay, thank you. So we will soon, trying to get some questions from the people who are following us. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to write them down. If I hear what you're saying, clubs reopening under very strict restriction, like being seated and so on, is kind of very difficult, because their core activities are actually to music and dance and be standing and so on. But there are other activities that were implemented during while the clubs were closed, as you said, easy, like creation or live streams and so on. Now we're in the winter, so it's kind of the rough period, but probably with the spring and then summer, the opportunity to have some open airs and so on, waiting for the vaccine to be on the market. But from what you say, I hear that you are not considering any reopening of the clubs soon. I mean, the back to normal doesn't sound so soon in what you say. So especially Mark, when you mentioned that you were not thinking maybe to see the clubs reopening before September, do you think that the clubs will make it till September, and how can they make it till September?
When I say personally, that's really personal. Even though we have on live on the national level, we have a so-called exit group. I'm not participating all the time because, as I said, all this recognition of culture, all the noise law things are not down. So the government is still going on to work on that. All these people are sitting in the offices and they don't care about Corona now. So we still have to split up our forces. And personally, I have the feeling, as I have to do a lot with politicians and also from different parties, that as far as they don't feel sure, also from their point of view with the consultation by medical specialists, what work for them, they will not allow to reopen again. We will have a split between two groups, from my personal view, beginning from April. The clubs and places which have an outdoor situation where they can do something outdoor, and then it comes to the point if someone is able to play music or not by noise issues. I think they will be all allowed to sell alcohol and to do some kind of bar gastronomy stuff. But how far can they go with booking and presenting artists? How long they can do it, not only by Corona reasons, but also by reasons of noise issues. So in Germany, we have very strict laws starting from 8 o'clock, then you maybe can do something with 10 o'clock. Sometimes you can do something with 12 o'clock. There starts the work again. So, and the places which don't have the possibility to do something outside and which have more a situation where there's no income. So I think we will have the situation how we have to support them and how can they prove that they are not able to do something outside. And then we fight a lot to get a festival support fund in the moment, because all festivals could not take part, or nearly could not take part in this summer. And we are sure that the majority of them will not survive a second summer without any kind of event and without any kind of support. But I believe, again, the politicians in Germany will not tell us in January how the year will be. They will decide it from month to month. They will not let us know before end of March. That's my personal impression.
Yeah, and what we often here for clubs especially is the difficulty to pay the fixed cost and especially the rents, because not all clubs owner actually own the building.
Yeah.
So how is it in Germany? Were there some measures to help to pay the rents for the clubs?
Yes, so the funds, so far, if you are allowed to receive some of the funds, you are allowed to pay your rents with that. All the rental situation, all the owners, the landlords are not participating yet in a situation where they have to support the corona crisis. So in Germany, the government decided up to now to raise money from taxes and future debts to support institutions who have to pay the landlords, but the landlords don't have, for example, to cut down, let me say 20 or 30 or whatever, 50% of the rents to support their institutions. That's not only for culture institutions, it can be also kind of barbershop, or it can be a normal shop for clothes or whatever is closed at the moment. So in Germany, all shops are closed by gastronomy, restaurants. Shopping is still allowed in the moment, but the gastronomy, hotels, everything is closed. So we will see how far the government will go, but we still have the situation that they are willing to do something, but they are not have set up yet rules that the landlords have to take to take part into that costs yet. They receive the whole price.
Easy. And then Adriana, how do you see the situation for?
Can I ask something easy? I heard that you have something like that in Switzerland. I saw that in a discussion group. Is that correctly? That landlords in Switzerland have to participate on the costs?
Yeah, so there's still a big lobbying effort going on to get a law or a regulation that the landlords have to pay for the cost, or that that you get funded for the renting costs, but it's not true yet. Yeah, so it still depends on the private personal will of the landlord, whether he wants to support your whatever business.
All right. And for the rest, do you feel like clubs can make it till they are able to reopen? What kind of specific support can they apply to?
So in Switzerland, we are kind of in a good situation compared to other countries in Europe regarding the helping measures that we get. But what the big problem now is that we get outage restitution only for planned events, and that the planned events slowly are not planned anymore, so that everybody is reacting very spontaneously on the measures that change from month to month, let's say. And we are now fighting that also that we get this outage cover not only for planned events, but for like a program that is similar to the past years.
All right, I see. Adriana, how do you see the situation? I mean, even if music venues reopen under strict restrictions in the weeks to come, I understand that many venues in Catalonia also have a club activity at night, which is quite important for the income and for the business model of the venue. So how do you see it?
Yeah, well, we were talking a few weeks ago with all the Spanish associations, and we know at least nowadays 15 music venues in Spain will not open the doors again anymore. So at least, so I don't know if this crisis gets so long or gets yeah, I don't know the number, the final number, what will be. And of course, I think that the pandemic crisis put on the table the situation of the music venues in Spain, which as I said before, our subsidy is between the 2% and 3% of our income. So we depend so much on the ticket sales, and on the bar sales. So nowadays that we are with no activity almost 100% from March until the end of the year, and we don't know if we can restart the activity, I don't know, at least maybe March 2021 or spring, or we don't know yet. Without no income from ticket sales, of course, and without no income of bar sales, because the clubs and the music venues are closed, the economical situation of music venues is really in a really difficult way right now, because we are fighting for some more public subsidies for this pandemic crisis. But of course, Catalonia and Spanish governments and a country, we are not so rich, so that kind of situation it's difficult for us. And of course, the cultural ministry is not available to have so much incomes from the general government. So I don't know. I will think that they can do it and that they can survive. Of course, there will be clubs that will not open the doors anymore. And in ASAC, we have noticed that if we don't receive public funds or public subsidies for that kind of crisis, it's possible that more than 80% of our music venues will not survive from the last, for the next 2 months. So from the beginning to 2021, maybe if we don't receive public funds, and we are talking of a real public funds, not the 20 or the 2 or 3% of our incomes, most of our venues, they will be in a really difficult situation, and maybe they have to close their doors.
Okay. So there's an emergency.
Yeah, totally. We are fighting for this.
Mark, you wanted to add one last word before we see if there are some questions?
I mean, I'm not sure if these presidents are really impressed by words coming from our scene, but I think it's really important that we get the lock off from Hungary and Poland, from the governments, that the EU funding theme really gets, that the money can flow now. So many countries and so many people are waiting for that. And I mean, for example, in Germany, we have the luck and the situation that we can apply by our own government, but I think it's very important to support on a European view all of our partners and colleagues. And so I don't know how to deal that from our small circle here, but I think to make this dimension clear, to support countries like Spain or other hard-hit countries, we need that money, which is in the moment blocked by the Polish and Hungarian presidents.
Right. Thank you for this word, Mark. Maybe there are questions from the people who follow us live here or on the social networks. I don't see any questions at the moment in the chat, but maybe if people want to say something, please raise your hand or show something. It's not that easy.
Easy, I think, that have to say something.
Sorry, easy. Go on.
I wanted to add maybe a bit of a positive feeling to all problems we mentioned that we are facing. What I really see is that all cultural workers from the club culture ecosystem base their motivation on passion and creativity. And this is a huge force, you know, to also get everybody through the crisis and to find new ways. And then another thing which you can also point out, as positive is that I see a huge focus, you know, on micro scenes, on local creations, that new networks and synergies form, and that there's a huge huge impact on creation. Let's maybe say thanks to the crisis on the side of all the difficulties coming with it.
Yeah. Adriana or Mark, do you see other optimistic signals for the future of clubs?
Mark?
Not sure Mark has. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no more questions, then I think we can leave it here. Leave it on the positive inputs from Easy. Thank you very much for your for sharing your thoughts on this. Just to let you know that the contents of the discussion will be used at the French national level as well as a kind of recommendations for to give more accessibility to the recovery plans for culture for the clubs in France, and also we will use it as our own resource for our network. So thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts today, and hopefully it will help other clubs and other regional or national organizations to get motivations for their advocacy work. And I wish you good luck to the three of you as well for the upcoming weeks. Keep the faith.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Good luck.